Hey, welcome to the show.
I want to kill you.
Society's fucked up. So this is only my second or third time to do this. So I'm still quite uncomfortable in front of the camera. But I'm trying out a new recording style here. Gonna be running this through my good old recorder here and be uploading it and trying to sync it with the video. We'll see how well that goes. Also still new, very new to video editing. This is all first time experiences for me. So here we go. I'm just going to talk about some things that I've been thinking about, and hope you're along for the ride, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you don't, please feel free to troll me in the comments. So I remember being a kid, and, well, not a kid, but 18, 19 years old. And I remember people always telling me that I was lazy or a drag on society, or why did I like rock and roll music? Or why did I like rock and roll music? I wanted to play music for a living, still do, and still do pursue that passion. But I remember people calling me lazy or thinking that I just didn't want to work, or that I just wanted to get out of doing something with myself, when the whole time really it was just what I wanted. You know, and I was really into punk rock. I was like into Green Day, you know, punk rock for my time. You know, I'm 25 now. So if that gives you any idea of what age I was when Green Day was really big, I'll tell you, American Idiot came out when I was 16 or 17 years old. And that album just shaped my whole view, you know, kind of on society and things. But I always wondered, you know, looking back now, why was I so anti-culture? You know, anti-normal, I guess. I had a big problem with normal people who went to work every day and did normal jobs. I don't think it was laziness, you know, and I don't think it was just not wanting to contribute or not really caring about anybody else. It wasn't my lack of sense of community. It was this whole generation. Looking back at it, I have this overwhelming, I think the strongest memory of how I felt at that time wasn't that I just hated the government just to hate the government because it was cool. And not just specifically the government, but, you know, people in general. I didn't agree with a large portion of what society does. I had a problem with the stupidity we see on our televisions, reality TV and dance moms and fucking Real Housewives of whatever fucking rich neighborhood. Who gives a fuck? That's what I want to know. But it's not just TV. It's also the laws we impose. And how media, news stories, blast about Justin fucking Bieber. It seems that all of society's focus is on two things: being entertained by celebrities and making a big fucking deal out of the smallest things. We're so fucking sensitive nowadays. We still haven't figured out whether we like abortion or not. I mean, this question has been around for, God, 50 years? Longer? I don't know. I haven't looked up the history, but either way, it's been around long enough for us to have made a decision as a society. You know, and gay marriage is the same way. It's another one of those things. We've been knocking this around forever. You remember how we knocked around slavery for forever before we all decided it was a bad idea? And I saw this all as a teenager growing up. And I see us going to war for as far as I can tell, no reason whatsoever. I'm 25, like I said now, and I still don't fully understand the whole thing with the war in Iraq and the war on terror. And we see more of the same today. It's like with Obama's big healthcare plan. I don't really know whether I'm for or against it because I don't fully understand it. Maybe it is because I haven't looked it up and done my research. But perhaps instead of our news being about the latest thing Miley Cyrus did, it ought to be about what this healthcare plan really entails. Maybe more people would have an understanding why they are for or against it then. I mean, you've got Republicans who just say, oh, it's socialism because a Democrat came up with it. And so that's their reason. They don't look it up. They don't know anything about it. And then liberals on the other side say, well, the Republicans don't like it. It must be a good idea. But it's not just a good idea just because the other party doesn't like it. And it's not just a bad idea because the other party put it forward. You know, that's the thing, is we spend all this time focusing on our celebrities and our bullshit, and nobody gives a fuck, but they really do. If nobody gave a fuck, if truly nobody gave a fuck like they all say they don't, then the news wouldn't be making so much money off of these incendiary, ridiculous, needlessly divisive fucking celebrity stories. We could be talking about why we went to Iraq and really talking about why. Maybe educate the people on what's actually going on in society, and your children, your teenagers, your next generation won't resent you for it like I did. They won't grow up thinking that everybody in the country is against them like I did. But that's just the way it is these days. And, you know, so maybe I wasn't so wrong for being a punker and being counterculture. Maybe it's the right thing to do. Maybe we all need to get a little bit of that dignity back to say, no, I'm not going to watch some guy drive around in his Ferrari and get drunk and get in fist fights at clubs. You know, no, I'm not going to dance. Maybe we should all stand up and say, you know what? I'm going to read a fucking book. I'm going to pay attention to politics. I'm going to give a shit about who makes the laws in our society and help dictate what ideas are good ideas and what ideas are bad ideas when further technology comes along. Like stem cell research. I believe there's still an argument about that, whether or not we should fund it, whether or not we should explore it. And it's because a lack of education. People don't understand what it's about. The people that do understand what it's about, from what I can tell, think it's a great idea. I'm talking about the scientific community. And you know what's funny to me? I think in politics especially, and yeah, it's more on the Republican side, but I'm trying not to be too biased to one side or the other, but they talk about these scientists like they're mad geniuses, Dr. Frankensteins. You know, these are the smartest people on our planet. Maybe we ought to listen to them when it comes to things like this. When they say, with stem cell research, we may be able to develop ways to regrow missing teeth or limbs or who knows what else, organs. The main point that I'm trying to get to is that we're so critical of anybody who has any education. We're so critical of anybody who's a little smarter than the normal guy. And it's because the normal guy now has been trained to be afraid of intelligence, to be afraid of progress, and to fight for this conservative approach. You know, I don't know. It just seems like everybody wants things to stay the same. Well, I don't fucking like things the way they are. My wife and I both work full-time. We bust our asses. And we can barely make our fucking bills. And we're lucky enough to be in a living situation where our bills aren't as much as the next normal family. You know? I mean, what do people do without help in this society? So no, I don't like things the way they are. You know, maybe change is what we need. Just not the kind of change where everybody ignores it and just blindly picks a side for or against it. We need the type of change where we educate people on what the change is and say, hey, do you think this is a good idea? Because people are smart enough. Well, if people gave a fuck, they'd be smart enough to be able to make their own decisions on what their morals are and what their ideals on on social, you know, social issues. That's the word I was looking for. Social issues are. I don't know. Sorry, let me smoke this cigarette. A little bit of water. So anyway, that's just kind of my little rant on the way I was when I was 15, 16, 17, you know, mid to late teen years. And I was thinking about how I was so against the police and against the government, you know, blindly kind of. I didn't really know what the government was, but I knew I didn't like it. And, you know, I got to thinking maybe I wasn't that stupid back then. Maybe I just didn't understand how ridiculous it all was. I didn't know how hopeless it really was. I thought I was going to fight against everything I didn't like and fix the problem. But, you know, there's just not enough support for people to be educated. You know, that's what it boils down to. Is people, they don't care. People want the entertainment. They want the comfort. They don't want to be part of the big decisions. And then we all wonder why the government, the United States government I've been speaking about. Every time I've said government in this video, I'm talking specifically about the US government because it's the one that I live under the authority of. So I can speak for that. If you're from a different country out there watching this, sorry, I don't know what your government's like. I don't have time in my busy American stupid fucking life to go through and learn all the laws in every country and see what the culture's like. But for the American government, it's more powerful and more invasive than it ever has been in our history. And we wonder why. Maybe it's because we don't take an interest. And quickly, as an aside, I know this has been said before, but let me say it. The terror is an idea. Terrorism is an idea. It's like horror. It's not something you can wage war on. You can't wage war on an emotion or a thought. Anyway, you're not going to defeat terrorism by killing all the brown people.